it's one thing when you're coming out of that narcissistic relationship and then you do the no contact and you can just like completely cut them out of there's just nothing, there's no strings, there's no divorce stuff to deal with or a child, things like that. But when you're still partially attached to them in some sense, that's what it feels like, especially initially in the beginning. And it's like you're already feeling very weak and vulnerable, and then you have to deal with them on some level for some reason, right? And there's going to be they're narcissists. They're still going to be narcissists, and so you're starting to get up and you're wounded, right? So I mean, like, how strong are you? I look back on that, like, how strong am I to still get up even though I'm wounded, right? And I'm still getting up and I'm not giving up, and then they're right there to like push you right back down, and so you can feel very exhausted and like it's just I'm never like, what is even the point in getting up? There's times for me that I felt like that. Like, what is even the point of me getting up? What's the point of this fight? And sometimes you need to just lay there for a second, have your moment, cry, and then you'll, regain your strength. And like you said, then you start to learn, okay, this is the pattern of this. So like if I react, because sometimes even if you react in a very, gray rock way, that's still, they're always pissed off. The gray rock, it's not like any of these things are necessarily going to work for them to change their behavior, but it's going to work for you to be able to protect yourself, to instill those boundaries, and for you to actually break those patterns and grow. And so when you do that over time, what I found years ago with the gray rocking and just focusing on what exactly the topic was, absolutely no emotion, was that while it infuriated the other person and was, kind of scary, I've dealt with, scary narcissists who are ragers and who can be, that's the reality of narcissists, is they can be violent and aggressive, and it can be very scary. And a lot of times what we did was, to be safe, was we just appeased them, and so now you're not appeasing them, and so it's scary for you too. But the more you do it, the more you'll realize that they're not being fed, right? So we can talk about narcissists not being fed, and when they're not being fed and they're getting more frustrated, but they're not abusing you, or you don't have to let the abuse happen to you anymore. So you're actually taking back control over the situation, regardless that they're losing their mind and going bananas. You, by gray rocking, are actually taking control of the narrative and which way things are going to go. And you're not engaging in that back and forth, because it always comes to that, because that's what they want. And when you're not engaging in the back and forth, and you said what you said, you don't need to respond and say it 500 other times, because they're going to keep picking and pushing. But those things, when you start to do those over time, what helped for me was that gray rocking really helped to separate me from that trauma bond, that even though I didn't want to be there anymore, they still wanted to be there, right? So I'm not feeding them anymore, and so they're just like falling off in a sense. They'll never be nice to you later, and if they are, that's a narcissist's tool, is their kindness, right? But you will have the stability in your life now that you needed by having control over that situation with your responses and how you're responding and what you will do and what you won't do. You are starting to instill your boundaries again, and they can just be mad over there in the corner. Let them be.